very good with English. Either way, we're rocking with both of these areas, and they're going to be playing against each other. It's going to be interesting with Shenandoah versus what we'll be calling the HCC Dragons, as the first map we do start off is going to be Eichenwald, and Eichenwald itself is a very interesting map, I feel. Definitely would have to agree, mostly just because maybe I have some bias. I've just always won comp when it comes to this map, and it's just always felt that great. But I'm more interested to see how these teams tend to work because of the fact that Eichenwald is such aesthetically pleasing map. I don't know about you. Sometimes I get lost in the falling leaves and just the beautiful smells that don't exist.
Ready for battle.
I gotta agree with that. It's probably really smelly like fuming Kings Row. But when it comes to this map, I'd like to think Overwatch is going to be coming out on VR before Overwatch 2 hits our PCs. Still, we're looking at a traditional type of sense with more of a rush style versus a more kind of passive brawl, I guess, in a sense that you would call it, or how would you kind of define it? Definitely would have.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, hey, I'll let you take it over because I'm the more analytical brain when it comes to these fights. A lot of that fight is given to the fact that it is both Doomfist and Reaper, high damage characters, but more of the Doomfist being able to not only displace them, but hit those one-shot kills, which caused them to panic, and now they're not going to be able to kind of push in without having to invest maybe 1 to 2 ultimates to kind of play around it.
Very much so, but now they're also going up against a very long-ranged composition, so it's really, can they take them out? Can they take, can Howard Community College take out Shenandoah before, you know, they're able to close the gap? You know, Genji and Ash are not winning a close-range battle against Reaper and Doomfist ever.
Yeah. This is definitely true. They do switch over to Cassidy, the new name, and they do have a couple ultimates, but the issue is that Doomfist is the one who's engaging early. Just look how they take out Optimal.
Yeah, Optimal go down immediately, then Rosanita. It honestly just feels like snowballs over and over here. One person falls on a red team, and then the rest of blue team is just there to follow up on it. And so far, I mean, not much being shown from the side of the Howard Community College. The HCC Dragons looking more like the Season 1 Dragons.
That's rude, but true into a good sense. Just because Clarity is able to kind of fully invest their abilities into, which is splitting up the team. They managed to take out Wob very early in that fight, but they weren't able to follow in because they're more worried about the Doomfist and the fact that Shut Up is sitting there with a Death Blossom and is being able to put that pressure in.
Yeah, now we're actually seeing some alt cycling coming out, but will it matter? We've starting to see things coming out. We got the sound barrier, we got the Gravitic Flux, Earth Shatter, everything being invested now from the Dragons to try and break through this with 46 seconds left. They weren't able to find much value with their ultimates. They were able to close the distance a little bit, but they've been here before without much value. That being said, they are very close to that Dragon Strike. Although Reaper going in on the back won't... None of these ults are really finding value. I mean, they might be creating a bit of space for the teams, but finally we're seeing some breakthrough. Optimal with the Dragon Strike. Clarity dives in and finds Cowboy. And Paulito and Chipmac, and now it's just looking like all the other fights. I mean, Red Team was able to get a couple kills there, but it just was too little too late. And after all that ult investment... no one's going to be able to touch. Oh, well, no, here comes Lucio, but overtime ticking away, no one's going to get there.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part of playing that more pokey style of the Brawl comparably to this very quick rush. The Sigma just isn't going to have that much room. If you're not following up on those gravitic fluxes, then, well, you're basically going to be sacrificing yourself to the wolves, especially since there is a lot more mobility onto one side, and they're going to be able to come back much faster. You're relying on not only being able to outpoke them, but being able to finish them off quickly. If you're not having that, then these fights, well, they're going to end like that. The Doomfist and the Reaper, they're going to come in, they're going to be pumping in that damage, while the rest of the team are able to have that survivability, and they're able to kind of withstand a lot of this pressure. It's already an impressive full hold starting out, so when moving in, they don't have an opportunity to type of win this map. More of a hold, but I'm more curious to see how they want to try and fix up those issues. It more looks like they kind of want to go with the same thing, except they're using out Uber with a Brigida, which isn't too bad. Brig is definitely good, especially when slowing down these fights and when you want to kind of get a bit more healing out of it. Normally, I'd like to go with the Lucio just because Johnny Cruz is my favorite person in the world. But hey, that's a little bit of bias from me, while on the opposite side, most likely they're not going to be going directly with this. But using still with clarity onto this Doomfist is so powerful because they don't really have much to stun besides from Cassidy, and you'll have to try and play around it. That's a lot of resources trying to take out one character, which can be a big issue going into the fights.
I mean, certainly can be, and I think the Brig is probably a better play than the Mercy was in the last one, just because, you know, a little bit better at close range, a little bit more survivability. And, I mean, we'll see if it matters. Survivability was not something that Red Team really seemed to excel at in the last round, but they're going to find a very early pickoff onto Breezy. That's certainly going to slow down Shenandoah a little bit, but 3.5 minutes, and they only need a third of the points. I mean, it feels like it's done and dusted already on this map.
Yep, it's a slow type of move, and they're already getting set, but Rosinado is already taking so much brawl damage.
Yeah, Rosinado's going to be able to take out Wabi Sabi, but Shut Up going to fall to Optimal. Clarity finds Reisaku as well in that fight. So for now, it looks like, well, okay, well, it looks like they might have been able to hold there, but it just kind of all started to crumble. It was a good beginning, and yeah, big sad.
It hurt. There's nothing worse than losing Rasanto so early into the fight. Losing out your Reinhardt basically means the fight's over because there's no one protecting you. And already, look at that. Clarity's going to manage to steal that play of the game, manage to get that shine. And we are seeing already a 1-0 lead when it comes to this series. I've got to say, so far, it's an impressive show of just the aggression and the ability to play forward and respect your team enough to be able to clear things out.
Yeah, a little bit of BM there in the chat. I don't know if you saw it, but it was honestly warranted, I feel like, after that. A little bit of trash talk here and there. So it was, keeps things spicy, keeps things interesting. But yeah, Dragons are going to have to pull themselves together. I mean, they like I said earlier, looking like the Season 1 Dragons there at times. They need to bring themselves into the now, where they are our champion of the Overwatch League, and just channel some of that energy, because otherwise Busan is going to be another very bad time for them.
Yeah, it's actually going to be the worst time for them. I think Busan is a beautiful Doomfist map solely just because of Mega Base and downtown, where you can get a lot of value and high ground potential to be able to one-shot people. What can you do besides from Cry? Those are the only chances you really have.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say what they can do to adapt because we didn't get to see a whole lot of them in that last map. You know, it was pretty short. And if they, yeah, like you're saying, if they can't find a way to deal with the Doomfist, they're gonna be struggling.
Yep, that is going to kind of be a further factor. Although Busan does give a lot of good opportunities to how you really want to take those fights, just because control in a good sense or in a great sense when it comes to Overwatch is more often than not used for a rush style, unless you're Nepal / Ilios who decide that you want to be able to run like poke or strictly a double shield. So it's more of how do you rush onto the enemy opponents. Obviously, there are options such as running down with double bubble and dive, and I think those work. But I want to be seeing more focus fire coming out of Howard, because there is nothing that you can do that like saves you more than being able to say, all right, Reinhardt, you're dead, dude. All right, you just absolutely demolish him.
Yeah, which kind of makes me question, why did they stick with those long-range DPS heroes on that last map? I mean, surely by, you know, halftime on Eichenwald, they had to see that this isn't working.
You know, I gotta say, it's all about adaptation. Some teams are just so confident in what they run and how they feel that it's going to be working for the most viable kind of strategies and ideas, at least to what they feel. And I think that's why they ran it out. I definitely can understand the options of running with that Sigma. I definitely think the poke can work, especially when slowing down that rush. But what Sig can do, Diva does in a more secure fashion. Because if you're not, I think if you want to be going with that Sigma, more often than not, you go with that Orisa solely because you need to commit to that pure poke. They're rushing onto you. What is that Sigma going to do? Have that 6-second eat and just die. All right. Sure, you have a second shield, but their entire composition is to just run at your face. What are you going to do in comparison to that?
Yeah, I don't really have the answer there, other than, you know,
Exactly.
Shenandoah probably just going in chat.
That was easy.
I mean, what else can you say about that last map? Really,
You brought out the button solely for that factor. And
I really did. I needed to work it in some way. I'm not allowed to use it when I'm casting Pokemon because it's considered against the spirit of the game. So, but
I don't know.
Yeah, I had to bring it back.
You just have to do it anytime a Pokemon gets one-shotted. That was easy. That was a super effective move. Nintendo can say what they want, but that is absolutely hilarious in my opinion. Still, though,
I'm sure Nintendo wouldn't have an issue with it. It's generally the people that I'm casting for are like, we don't want to annoy the players. I'm like, okay, all right, fine.
No, that's our job as the broadcasters. That's
yeah.
All our
like,
business
come on now. We're the heels. We're the bad guys.
What are they supposed to do? All right, they're supposed to come back after the VOD and say we have no idea what we're talking about and we have bias, especially since right now Howard are kind of rocking a little bit weaker. So
I'm not gonna lie. My wife's name is Becca, so seeing "Shut Up, Becca" on the side of Shenandoah makes me want to root for the Dragons, but they are not making it easy for me. I feel like I'm in a lose-lose situation here.
You very are. I mean, like, you really can't. I feel like it's a harder issue to kind of broadcast this now because you're sitting there and you're like, look at this fight. Shut up, Becca. She's just going to hear you and be so angry in a good second.
Thankfully, she works overnight, so she's asleep right now and she can't hear me.
Massive dub. Nothing better than oversleeping still. But I think it's going to be more curious to see, because going back on kind of the topics of how these maps are going to work, there are 3 points when it comes to Busan. There's obviously downtown, there's Mecha Base, and the one spot that I could never for some reason figure out, but it is definitely going to be the one with the drum. Meaning, so those are very different. Why would it be called No way it's called Shrine.
What is it called?
You know, I'm a caster.
I've never bothered to learn the names.
I will never know. But you are definitely wrong. Do you understand me here? All right. Yeah. Either way, all right. I like to call it the drum map. It's my favorite map of
Sanctuary.
Okay. Oh, it's Sanctuary? Well, it doesn't matter. We're starting out on
Sanctuary. Give us Sanctuary.
I don't want to hear
Hunchback and Notre Dame fans.
Listen, you don't even have to worry. We're starting out on nothing more beautiful than Mecha Base, which is not only the worst thing for Dragons to start on because it's such a viable Doomfist map, but it's close quarters, meaning that if you try to run out on that double shield, there is enough kind of natural cover to be able to defend you, which is kind of the opposite of King's Row. We already see Chip Milk going back onto the Sigma, so it seems that they are very reliant kind of working on this composition. More interested to see Ray using this Mei. I definitely love that strategy because you're being able to give more room and force them to go down one side angle, which is definitely how you should be playing this composition. But going on to the other side, they're running with the Orisa Diva, which I have no name for it, but it is really good at not only bunkering down, but they just ignore that flat out, going on to the rush, and this is just a scary composition to try to brawl into.
And that it really is. And I mean, thankfully now they've moved off of the Ashe McCree, or the Ashe Cassidy. So we do have a slightly more suited DPS line for this, but it's not going to matter because Optimal's going to fall immediately in this fight. Uber Phoenix not far behind him. Wabi Sabi's Uber aggression has been paying dividends for Shenandoah. You know, I'm always worried when I see my Rhine charging ahead at the very beginning of Mecha Base, and I'm like, okay, you're out there on your own, but I guess it doesn't really matter when you're this darn good.
No, it truly doesn't. Already the fight is starting to get into its way, but they're having an issue trying to get past Clarity right now.
Yeah, that they are, and that was almost a great Maywall separating the Rhine from the rest of the team, but unfortunately just wasn't quite able to seal him off completely. Now Noma Life going to take out a Chimp Milk, and I don't think, okay, you know what, never mind. I was going to say, I don't think we've seen the Dragons on the board yet, but Optimal going to find some big kills here. Finds both the DMAC and 2 kills on top of it. Although Amatar finds 3 as if not to be outdone by the DPS line. So after 35% on the board, the Dragons are going to be able to flip. And for the first time in forever, it feels like, you know, they have a chance.
Listen, all right, this is where you get punished for that over-aggression. We saw them move in, that window pumps in the damage, and there's just nothing you could do about it. So at least with this slight rotation, they have an opportunity to set up for this high noon.
Yeah, that they do, and they're going to find 2 big kills with it. Both of the healers going down just like that. This fight feels like a foregone conclusion, and now with Ryusaki finishing off Wabi Sabi, it is just a matter of time till this one is over. And I feel like the difference really on this map so far has been the ult cycling that we've seen from the Dragons. Shenandoah are just kind of letting it rip as they got him. Meanwhile, you know, the Dragons were able to take control of this point initially without using any ultimates, which left them in a good spot to rotate them in the coming fights.
Yep, when now trying to recontest into this fight, we do have one side with a bunch of ultimates, so they have set up, and going on to Volcacity, at least they do now have that stun, but Wasabi already taking an immense amount of damage!
Oh my god! The double kill with the Diva Bomb and a remake kill to top it off onto Uber Phoenix. Shut Up going to find Ryusaki. Wabi Sabi finds Chimp Milk. A big old team kill. The gong rings. Shenandoah flips it with 69 nice % on the board. For the Dragons, though, it is it's looking a lot more competitive than Eichenwald was.
Yeah, they're already getting close, but the issue that's coming into is how do you keep trying to contest inside here? It's such a big ult fest already with the ultimates being used.
It certainly is, and we saw a bunch of them just being ripped right there. I think 5 ults just got used in the span of like 5 seconds, and is it over? Can I come out from behind my hiding spot yet? Because I really wasn't even sure who won that until the very end there, when I saw Shenandoah with the W on that fight. And now we have the Baby Diva just getting some yoga in, you know, while they're waiting for their mech to come back to them.
Yeah, this is really where kind of that high damage composition works out. The Reaper just gets so much value. Though the High Noon is going to try to isolate and take control of this point, we have to see how they respond, especially because they give up that capture, so they're going to be losing time in their bank.
They give up the capture, but also that High Noon would have taken out 2 people were it not for the Immortality Field. So you had 2 very low team members and chances to pick them off, but Shut Up is gonna just get healed back up, take out 2 members of the Dragons. And Wabi Sabi drops a big fat shatter to kind of seal the deal for Shenandoah now. 94% on the board, though. It looks like we will have a chance for one more fight here from the Dragons. Unless, oh my god, that flashbang would have been absolutely disgusting. But is anyone going to be able to touch now? Okay, we do have the Tracer on the point. And they're going to be able to get a call with help from Uber Phoenix. So Clarity going down there. Breezy finds Amatar, though. So you lose the Reinhardt. And things kind of start to fall apart, or so you would think, but the Howard Dragons, they've kept their head in the game, and it looks like they actually might be able to flip this. But the kills have been so staggered, I would think that there's at least going to be a chance to touch here.
Yeah, Clarity has the high noon already setting up to be able to use it, and it gets the 3K!
Oh, it was all Dragons all the way, but a 3K with the Deadeye. Oh, that's disgusting.
Optimal wasn't even able to touch the point. A lot of that fight went down to just how staggered and messy it was, but Dragons made a big issue. They gave up the high ground. There's nothing worse than what Obi Kenobi can tell you, all right? Sigma, they just ran into them, and you win from that fight. They have faster respawns, and just having a D.Va alive means so much more than having a Sigma alive, at least in my general caster opinion, and that's what's going to cost them. Now they're at a big disadvantage. They need to make some differences, and it seems that they're preferring the Soldier 76, having that mobility and damage rather than kind of more just overall brawl. So big poke going up against this Wrecking Ball. They're going to have issues trying to find people to isolate besides from the very obvious targets of the supports.
There, I gotta say, I'm kind of shocked to see Clarity on the Widowmaker here, because these are here, you know, we saw him playing Doomfist earlier. These heroes have very different skill sets, but, you know, seems to be working out for him. Uber Phoenix, Mercy gonna die immediately. And now we just see some pot shots going in onto the Sigma in the back. The HUD went away, so I can't really tell how that's going.
Hey, you don't even need to worry about it already. We're being able to see the Dragons kind of struggling to move back. They even go onto the Widowmaker trying to counter this out, but this is not in their favor anymore, and they do not have control over this point at all. Already, we're going to be seeing the Dragons kind of forced back, and they're going to set. The issue with this brawl is that the Wrecking Ball composition absolutely counters it, and they're going to struggle to break it. So Optimal not only has to be able to take out Clarity, but has to watch out for the opponents that are kind of being able to dive onto them. Though, with that pick onto Shut Up Becca, and onto Clarity. That's a good opener.
Oh, man, we are seeing some Season 1 Linkser action coming out of Optimal there. They were sleeping for the first couple rounds, but now they're just like, oh, I can snipe now? And they've been doing a pretty good job winning these fights here. They got a DMAC and a 2K, pretty much securing their team the point on their own. Yeah, they got pressured a little bit by Clarity, and they're going to drop down to avoid the Widowmaker sights, but, you know, I mean, okay, not going to win that one. I was like, ult was still up. I don't know what that was about. They knew where you were.
Yeah, that's where the issue comes in. They're now down their Widowmaker, which is their main line of defense. With this window being on point, they do have an opportunity to pump in that extra damage and be fine. However, the issue is that there is a lot of targets to try to focus on and nobody to truly hit. So you're basically just panicking around trying to find someone to be able to isolate.
True, but like no one on their team has fallen yet besides a respawned Optimal, and I spoke too soon. Becca's going to find Reinhardt, and as you said, usually the rest of the team falls behind that, but this is a very scrappy fight here. The Dragons will not say die, and they've held out on this point a lot longer than they realistically should have.
I definitely have to agree to that sentiment, but the Wrecking Ball composition works well by playing passively. They don't really have to care nor worry because they're just going to wait out their time. It's harder for the Brawl to rush in when there's nobody to rush on to. Though losing out Clarity means you lose less line of sight and your supports are more open to being taken out. So the control is very much easily going to be flipped as long as they can deny sight lines.
Yeah, and for those of you at home, we are currently 2-2 on the Widow duel here on this map. Josh comes in with a D.Va bomb, finds Chip Milk. You were talking about how you would rather have the D.Va over the Sigma, and, well, if they had the D.Va instead of the Sigma, they might have still been alive. They wouldn't be in a mech, but they wouldn't be dead.
Yeah, but you would have opened yourself to a stagger. But listen, this is also one of the really good points of the Wrecking Ball conversation. Notice how they used every ultimate they had, and they're gonna just rotate it back. Even if they lose this, they're still set. The biggest thing they have to worry about is not only a blade, but the fact that a gravitic flux is opening, and that's half your damage plus a good kind of nano coming out that's gonna be able to shut you down. They're already setting up with this slam.
Yeah, well, and now they have to worry about the fact that they don't have a healer to top them back up, and Rei Saku is going to take full advantage of that, finding a bunch of kills without even using the blade, so they'll still have that ultimate for the next fight. It looks like they're also going to have a sound barrier, maybe a shatter, and they got the window as well, so it's going to be a tricky one to push back into, but if we can say anything about Shenandoah today, it's that they always seem to have answers for whatever Howard's Dragons are going to be throwing at them.
Adapt, improve, overcome, it's what I like to say. Although the ultimate's going back onto the side of the Wrecking Ball lets them open up with the mind and split off, while Ray is trying to kind of LOS with the blade. But listen, that's an amazing first pick to stop out the Transcendence from coming out.
Yeah, the Pulse Bomb kill with the follow-up onto the healer you would think would mean the end of the fight, but they're actually, thanks to a 2K from the Hamster, we're going to need to see a 3K blade get ripped out by Rei Saku and seal up this map for the first time. The Dragons are on the board.
It just hurts from the single fact that Genji had blade and there was no Zenyatta to be able to peel. Norma did not kind of estimate how much damage they were going to be taking, and that cost them. That was definitely an ultimate that you needed for that fight, because Ray was just able to hit that 3K, get a nice montage, feel like Shadowburn even. So when moving out, this is now where their composition is going to have a bit more of a success and yet a tiny bit more trouble, just solely because there is enough natural cover to be able to watch out from, to where the support line is going to be able to rotate entirely. But this is where you rely on your DPS not only to get those first initial picks like they were doing before, but to be able to move forward. I think this is still anyone's fight. It's just all about how you intend to engage with it.
You know, I think the Dragons, they heard the easy button, and that was really the rallying cry for them. I'm going to take credit for their success here, as all good casters do. And, I mean, I'm excited to see this one go back and forth. Like I said before we started, it has been a hot minute since I've casted Overwatch, and I did not want it to be just a stomp.
Yeah, look at this.
So I am very excited. Uber Phoenix with the first kill of the map onto the Reaper. Go off, Lucio. You do you. Now Wabi Sabi going to retaliate, take out Rei Saku. So it's not going to be all sunshine and roses for the Dragons here, but they will get the first capture, and it looks like Shenandoah going to actually be respecting them a little bit now.
It's all about how you try to commit to this fight. The Hanzo is just absolutely strong when it comes to these fights, not only breaking down shields and damage, but look at that, being able to kind of clip people and even find out clarity. Now with the Dragons going to be trying to just split them up, this is where the Brawl truly can just walk onto the Sigma, take not Josh out, and still have room for the setup. We're even seeing some forced switches as they're uncomfortable to continue walking out onto the Wrecking Ball. And this is how you feel great on the Dragons. This is where you know you're making them feel pressured to where they have to go on the double shield, which is trying to rock, paper, scissors shoot, but you still have more than enough of an ult economy coming up, and I kind of sense the play to take them out. Oh my goodness.
What? Okay, Optimal. All right, buddy. Okay, buddy. Fighting another 2K just at the very beginning of the fight, and it is just not going too well for Shenandoah right now, though Noble Life will find Rei Saku. That's not the DPS you need to be worrying about. Optimal is an absolute madman on this map.
Oh, it's just the Hanzo factor. You cannot let Hanzo take angle. Just gonna be able to headshot you and use those storm arrows to take out Breezy just as that. Now you've got to wait time to be able to restart this fight, and you haven't had a clean one for maybe 2 to 3. So that's now a big issue. You have the Transcendence as your only ultimate against 2 very big ones. If Norma gets shut down, it's over. It's absolutely over.
I mean, we're already in last fight territory. 91% on the board here for the Dragons. They woke up. Or at the very least, Optimal woke up, because he is coming out like a madman, and no one else on his team has had to invest ults, so we're able to see the shatter just come down from Amatar. Optimal finds even more kills, and now the attack buys are just sealing the deal. That was so disgustingly clean. My God.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. The opponents did a little bit of trolling. We the Transcendence was used in ill vein, as it was not even stacked with the rest of the team to be able to kind of get as much value as you want. And now this is where we start seeing the Dragons finding their clarity, finding their moments to be able to really move in, and they're going to be looking a lot stronger, especially because Busan is one of those maps where you can definitely switch the momentum, and with it being 1-to-1, it has a lot of opportunities to be able to bring it back, and they're looking very great solely from the fact that they are taking angles, and it seems one side just does not understand how to be able to play against it.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know what to say about the turnaround on that last map. Eichenwald could not have been less close. And then we see, you know, the first point of Busan is like, all right, you know, we're seeing a little bit of life from the Dragons. It's looking competitive. Then they managed to kind of squeak away a win on the second point. And then they just completely dominated Sanctuary. It was not even close. You know what? I had BM'd them a little bit earlier, but here, you know what?
That was easy.
You earned that. You earned that one, Dragons, especially Optimal. My God, man, you absolute monster.
This guy,
I don't know what
right
to say
here.
about that.
Listen, this is what I had to say about it. Do you look at me in my eyes, okay? Look at me in my eyes when I had to say
I mean, I got to
this.
look at you in the webcam so that it doesn't look
It's
weird. to the
practically
audience,
this. I
but-
would stare into mine, but it's a big light in my face. I'll go blind. But our next map is Rialto. Do you know how good of a map this is for Dragons right now, and how well they are playing to how I feel they will be able to move in?
I do not, but I will take your word for it as the analyst that that this is in fact the optimal map for their team here. My God, though, I'm sorry, I'm still in a bit of a state of shock after Sanctuary.
Hey, I definitely respect it. It's a moment to kind of take this breather in, especially just because it wasn't only in the DPS factor. I mean, I will give the DPS their credit on the side of Dragons. They are the ones that carried those fights. They are the ones that made those openings. But I definitely feel that it was also just the tank line being able to follow up on those pushes, because more often than not, the moment that someone was split off, we saw the Reinhardt and Sigma making that awkward grandpa stroll where they like have the hunch and pain. They're moving
Yeah.
over. They're like, we're gonna come get you, all right? We're gonna come find you. And well, that's just kind of how it works. And so I feel when it comes to Rialto, this is more where they can feel standing up, they can sit straight, and they can start poking you out.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, when you have the payload involved, the fights are going to be less spread out than they would be on a control mapping, and be able to try to at least be a bit more focused on that payload. So we'll see if, you know, that some of those Eichenwald strats come in, but at the same time, you know, there's a lot of sight lines, like you were saying, for the Dragons to play around. So we'll see what ends up happening there.
I think the biggest thing you're going to be looking out for is the fact that Shenandoah, they're most likely, because we saw a tiny bit of it. It may have not been clean, but we saw a tiny bit of it. The double shield. Rialto is very infamous for the fact that that first point is a very full hold operation, okay? You can be shut down like a snap of your fingers, and it is absolutely terrible. So I think what Shenandoah might want to do is slow down the tempo, slow down the fight. Don't let them be able to poke better than you by running a more optimal poke composition. While Howard's Dragons, they're going to be able to kind of sit there, and they can basically run the same thing that they've been running. It's 100% viable. Or they can switch things up if they feel wanting to run something a little bit more comfortable.
And, you know, I always like it when the meta is in a state where you can have two different teams playing two completely different comps, and both of them are realistically viable. For the longest time, it's felt like we've had, oh, you have to play dive. Oh, you have to play goats. Oh, you have to play double bubble. You have to play Hanzo with Zarya. You know, so it's nice that there's variety, I guess you can say.
It's a lot of opening, and I definitely have to agree. Overwatch right now is in that state to where you have that room. We're not playing on the experimental, nor do I think the experimental will truly change anything, especially with your flying Cassidy being able to take out a Pharah mid-air because they can now roll mid-air for some reason. Thank you, Blizzard.
Yeah, why not?
Either way, uh, it's a lot of room to be able to try things out, and that's what you're going to be playing with. I mean, Shenandoah can attempt to run that wrecking ball, which I think they look a little bit stronger on. They seem to have more confidence on it because that's what they're mostly running. But the issue comes in that is how do you take those engagements against a team that is now shown to be able to play against it? Dragons have fully adapted to it, which is ironic. I feel like I'm casting Overwatch League being able to say that. And it's going to matter a lot with the way that they pick their compositions going into this fight. I don't think it's a rock, paper, scissors type of situation, but I feel more than anything, this is room for them to really kind of solidify themselves, feel a little bit better, especially after that first map where they kind of where they lost, not convincingly, but they still lost nonetheless.
Yeah, it was pretty damn convincing. Let's be real. let's not lie. Let's not lie to them or ourselves or the viewers. That was not close. However, they brought it back. They've redeemed themselves certainly. Now they just kind of have to keep up the momentum from Busan and take this third map of a series that, we were initially thinking was going to be incredibly one-sided. Not so. And I'm quite happy that the Dragons just decided to show up in the second map.
Yep, I definitely have to see. Though I'm not too surprised to see what both of these teams are running. More of Shenandoah. More interested to see the fact that they are sticking onto this heavy rush style composition. I mean, it works, but the issue comes to the fact that Rialta has a lot of high ground, and Optimal has already shown to be able to be a flanker and take those spots. If you're giving Chimp more room to be able to play this Sigma, kind of hit those angles and shots, then you're basically ruining yourself up. You can't really brawl into them too much as well, since Uber is sitting there on the Brigida, and again, Brig is absolutely devastating when it comes to rush sometimes.
Absolutely, especially in the early points of this where it's mostly close range. Optimal's going to find shut up there, but I believe they actually got stunned up by Uber before that, kind of creating the opening. Reisaku going to find Cassidy. Cowboy falling to Ninja. Tale as old as time. Cowboys versus Ninjas. I think that's always a classic trope, right?
I would say so, though they are finding success solely from the fact that Optimal's able to get room and value because they don't have a shield and they're peeking out against the Hanzo. How are you even going to move forward when the Dragons are now splitting you off from this point?
I'm being reminded that Cowboys vs. Aliens was a movie that existed and was evidently quite good. However, Shenandoah not feeling so good, at least about that first point. You were saying something about a first point hold, though?
Well, it's definitely something that's very famous when it comes to this map, Rialto. But, I'd be lying to say that, it's always kind of a more 50-50. And they're more struggling. Though, having this high ground does help them out. The big issue is they're not shutting down Optimal. They are not doing anything to stop this Hanzo from not only taking angles, but then hitting these perfect shots, which not only takes out, not Josh, but builds up the Dragons to place on the stairs, and they walk into it.
They didn't really have any. I mean, they could have jumped off the stairs, but that was a very beautifully positioned Dragon Strike. Didn't go through the wall until it was just about on them. No Josh valiant in their efforts to survive that. However, it won't be enough.
I don't think it really will. More moving in, though this may help them out solely just cause they're going to be able to really engage with that window for the third point. But now they're going to have to try stop this with over 5 minutes and a time bank. Dragons are looking so strong, and they have the ultimates to back up what they're talking about. We need to be seeing some more adaptations coming from the opposite side if they want to be able to slow this down. Use your ultimates first. Take some movement.
Yeah, and they're going to need to keep playing strong because the Dragons will need whatever prize money exists here. With all that railing breaking that Hanzo's doing, those are some serious OSHA violation fines that are coming their way. And, they're looking to make it happen. Gonna find a storm arrow right into Shut Up Becca's face. Rest in peace, Reaper.
I'm more interested to see how they want to try and recontest this. Clarity, for some reason, is going on to the Torbjorn, which is more than anything countered by Optimal, slowly just playing out. They are using this window, so it's going to be a messy fight, but a fight nonetheless.
Yeah, that they will, and a big shatter under the cart allows them to move in there, going to find a kill onto Breezy. Now, well, Howard's able to just kind of turn that around. Not Josh will get one kill onto Paulito, just to keep things going, but for the most part, I think there might have been maybe 2 kills that entire round for Shenandoah.
I think the part that you really need to start focusing on, because I wasn't even counting the kills. I think they got like 1 at most. But
yeah, I was trying to be generous because I saw the Diva Bomb kill at the end, and I was trying to think, like, did they get another one? I assume they got another one at some point, but I could be wrong.
All right, that's true. But look at this, 4 minutes and 43 seconds. That is such a high time bank. We should have been given an M rating with the viewer discretion is advised, because 4 minutes and 43 seconds on Rialto of all maps is not commonplace. That's because you get the soft steamroll or the snowball, whatever term you really want to use, and it works perfectly. And it's all given from the fact that Optimal puts their team in a position to move forward. Ama is able, yes, to move forward. The Briggs feeling fine, and Paul is able to use that window to varying success. But it's solely from the fact that Optimal is finding headshots and being able to take out mechs early, which just works perfectly.
And honestly, it feels like their strategy for dealing with Optimal has just been ignore him and try and kill the rest of the team, and that just has not been working out for Shenandoah here. They're going to need some sort of adaptation, and I guess clarity on the Hanzo, it could work, but Optimal seems very competent on this hero, so we're going to need to see a very standout performance from Clarity to keep them even to have a chance in this series.
They're already committing it. Look,
well,
exactly as I said, no analytics needed when they're just dead.
Oh my god. The 180 that has happened in the momentum has been astounding to watch. Though Clarity is going to find a pick off on to Cassidy, so Ray Saku fall in there. Not Josh will find Amatar. All right, so we're starting to see a little bit of momentum, a little bit of that snowballing you were talking about here coming out from Shenandoah. They just need to keep the momentum running. Optimal will get the DMAC onto Not Josh. The Wabi Sabi is going to find a kill onto Uber Phoenix. Ray Saku and Optimal, the DPS line putting in work. Clarity along with Amatar going to fall, so 1 tank, 1 DPS down, and now that snowball has stopped moving, and we're seeing the dragons start to stabilize.
I really want to see Wasabi just play the Reinhardt and not die. Okay, they definitely could have held that if Wasabi was alive, because Optimal's gonna be able to take those shots and freely use their abilities when nobody's contesting. You know that Optimal's winning out in the Hanzo 1v1s, so you need to more or less shut down the rest of their team's value.
Really do. And now, okay, we got the Reaper in the back line. They were able to get in there and focus down Optimal. That's big, because as soon as Optimal dies, we see Clarity and Breezy just finishing off the rest of the team. That shatter kind of comes out in vain. I don't know if I was Amatar if I would have dropped that there. Is that a panic shatter, maybe?
Well, shatter in itself is an ultimate that you freely can use very aggressively and very often, especially because you still have another recontest where the dragons are trying to split them up.
Yeah, the dueling dragons, classic Universal Coaster and classic Overwatch trope. All it really does is, in this case, is just kind of create openings for both teams to get nice and close to each other. Now Josh throws in a Diva Bomb. Will it find any value? No, it won't, but Clarity will. Takes out the same 2 members that he took out last time. Hanzo and Reinhardt falling down. Optimal retaliates with a 2K of his own. Normal life. This is just a scrappy back and forth fight, although it looks like in the end Shenandoah is going to win. They won't have the same time bank going into this the second point, obviously, that the Dragons did, but they've been doing a pretty good job pushing through.
this is where they're starting to shine. They did exactly as I was really hoping them to be able to do, which is not fully ignore Optimal, but make sure that Optimal's team doesn't have the room to be able to follow up on their picks. And that's absolutely how you need to be playing this. Not Josh is putting that pressure in, and now it's going to be harder trying to play onto this high ground scenario, but still.
And that it is, and now you have Shenandoah jumping up there just to force some of the members of the Dragons back. Becca going to take out the Immortality Field. Not that that'll do a whole lot, but Ray Saku going to find Breezy. So losing the Baptiste there, that feels pretty bad. Wabi Sabi gets in. Did they walk back off the map? I'm going to need a replay on that. Are they going for the reset? Or I think
100%.
Noble Life was going for the reset, but I don't know what Wabi Sabi was doing.
I definitely think it was probably a call for a reset. I think either way you had to die. You were down a couple of your teammates, and now going back into the fight, you built up those ultimates. So it's really not that big an issue because you sacrificed that timing. The issue is that now they're walking up the stairs, going into the poke phase. There's nothing scarier than walking into a bullet fire.
No, there isn't, but, you know, maybe it would have been a little bit easier for Wabi Sabi had he held up his shield instead of just getting hit in the face by Optimal. And now we're just seeing ultimates being thrown out left and right. Not Josh was looking to try and eat the Dragon Strike. Wasn't able to time it quite right. Our Optimal, I guess, had the read on it, maybe, depending on how you want to look at it. But either way, Howard has managed to do a very good job stabilizing here.
That was just a lot of unfortunate events that set up to their own demise. Now with this massive stagger, it is going to be a big issue. Though they do manage to get out Chimp's Gravitic Flux, which is an ultimate that very much heavily relies on the enemy team rushing into you. Now going against Becca, who they really have two stuns on. I'm more curious to see how they're going to get value onto the Death Blast.
It'll certainly be interesting because a lot of ultimates were used in that last fight by Howard, but they've done a good job of just building them up again. The Diva Bomb comes out, not going to find a lot of value. Clarity will find Amatar in that fight, though. Once again, the same two people, Hanzo and Reinhardt. I don't know what Clarity has it in for them, but he's also going to take out Ray Saku along with Paulito. All right, trying not to be outdone by Optimal here. Wants to go ahead and show up 2 minutes 41 seconds for what has been a pretty good offensive showing here from Shenandoah. But just in contrast, 4 minutes 45 seconds with the map finished for the Dragons. Like, you have a good push versus an almost unheard of push. This is going to be difficult, even if they do finish this, to come back.
Yeah, it looks like they're just kind of moving in Clarity, able to take out the Reinhardt, with that rally kind of being split off. Nobody's going to get too much value. And already they're struggling.
Yeah, that they are, but obviously Clarity kind of starting to feel himself here, and as are the rest of the team. Howard, or rather Shenandoah, just they kind of looks like they took a snooze during Busan in the first half of this, but they're starting to wake up now. They're starting to bring it back, and a Fire Strike going to take out a kill. I was like, are we going to see a big shatter come through? No need. We're just going to kill everyone without it. Round 2 complete. Minute 43 on the board for Shenandoah, and a respectable time bank.
Score.
But again, 4 minutes 45 seconds. What are you doing?
I gotta say, it's a bit more of a hit or miss type of room. That's kind of just where the snowball slowly got to move in as they were getting very early picks, and we no longer saw Dragons taking those early fights as they used to, especially because things became a lot closer together. Optimal had no room to take those fights. Clarity was playing their game by taking those angles and getting that space that they needed, which is what you kind of do in those Hanzo fights, and they were getting those shots, which is truly what matters. It was definitely a big play moment, which is what I love to see. But now, 1 minute and 43 seconds versus 4 minutes and 43 seconds, ironically enough, only separated by the first number. This can mean a lot, or this can mean nothing. It's definitely how you want to change and adapt to your own play style, because the defending side is going to have the pure advantage solely from having that time bank, because they're going to be able to go into the next fight saying, we're perfectly fine, we know how to play against it. And I doubt we're going to be seeing the Mercy Lucio run out, because that is just not enough healing and going up against your opponents. But still, I think that they continue to play this aggression, continue to move forward. Though seeing out with the Orisa composition, this may be a bit more interesting than I truly expected.
Yeah, are we gonna see? We gonna go sailing? We're gonna see the pirate ship come out? Okay, maybe not literally. They haven't thrown the shield down on the point, but I mean, you know, they've got a little bit more push with this movable shield here from Wabi Sabi, and of course the fire gets them an advantage over the Reinhardt, I think, in this, at least in this section of the map.
Yeah, it's kind of just harder. They're more focusing on trying to find anyone out to poke while the Brawl wants them to move forward. Their main job is to contest this payload without too much to worry about. Though losing clarity, that's going to be a big issue moving forward.
You know, they certainly won't be moving forward after those 2 kills. They're going to have to be moving back and quickly before they lose any other team members. I'm kind of surprised that Ana's still alive through that retreat, to be honest.
Hey, works out in the end. The big mistake coming out from that entire fight was just the fact that not Josh is playing on the low ground, poking, rather than trying to stop Optimal from being able to play on the high ground. And that's how you get those sticks. Look at that. They already take out Wasabi before they can truly set, and now they're feeling fine. It's less than 30 seconds on the clock going into this next fight, and they're now going to be hit with the Dragons.
Yeah, the Dragon not really going to do a whole lot there, fortunately for Shenandoah. They're going to have to take a step back, just kind of try and regroup, compose themselves. Again, you're saying less than 30 seconds left. They have to make something happen now. And, well, they're pretty close to having a couple ultimates up. Losing Shadabeka like that is not great for them. Although, you know, they'll take that trade. I think they'll trade a Reaper for a Reinhardt, though they probably wouldn't trade it for, you know, the rest of their team. And now with overtime ticking away, kind of feels like this match is already over.
Unfortunately enough, this is where that full hold scenario kind of comes in. I mean, somehow they're able to touch the point. I'll give them that. That was a little bit more impressive, being able to sneak through our eyes. The Reaper not going to really be able to do much. The Lucio eventually melting down. No one else can do it. But that came down to the fact that they did not play the Orisa comp the way you're supposed to play it. A lot of not Josh playing onto the low ground was a big punishment because their own Hanzo is not going to be able to fight someone on the high ground who's able to duck and weave like a basketball player somehow, or a boxer being able to hide freely. You're splitting the attention, which gets you caused out. And that's the big reason why you see them get full health. There's not much you can do. You need to make space for your Orisa to be able to walk in, get some nice poking, and shut them down.
Yeah, and they're, like you were saying, that just did not happen. There was no space made. I mean, the only space that was being made was some space in between their heads, courtesy of Optimal and Ray Saku just lighting them up. But again, 4 minutes, 45 seconds. Is there a universe where Shenandoah is able to hold this?
Yes, there is a universe. It's called multiverse theory, and that is 1 in 1/10,000. Doctor Strange doesn't see it, all right? Because of the fact that they are forced to do this. This is a full hold type of style. They need to brawl out. If they lose one person, if they lose one fight, this could be an end of disaster. Though they just need to kind of lower down the time bank, which is what you're looking for. I think the bigger issue comes in, they're running poke. They're just going to hide the moment they see you.
That they are, and now that is a very aggressive play, but I guess, you know, when the capture point is that far, not that far into the map, you kind of have to play really far just to give yourself a second fight when you eventually lose the first one, but that hasn't happened yet. Wabi Sabi finding 3 kills before the Dragons are even able to get out of the spawn door here. Optimal doing what he can, going to get shut down by Clarity. This is not how I thought the beginning of this was going to go.
I'm a little more impressed. The poke competition normally thrives off this type of fighting style, but they're basically taking these natural covers. They're not trying to overextend, and they're resetting. That's basically how this works. Already taking a minute off the clock is looking fine, though they're going to have to worry if the ultimates build up, and they're going to be able to find people kind of caught dirty.
The good news is, though, if ultimates are built up and used here at the very beginning, it's going to take them that much longer for the late game. And it looks like they will be able to finally break through, but they made the Dragons bleed quite a bit, and not Josh. You can call that a stagger if you want, but at the end of the day, bleeding time off the clock.
Let's keep it going.
That's really all that matters in the end. They now have 3 minutes to try to just push this a little over, like under halfway through the point, which is what matters. Because look, now they have another free fight, and they're coming up on the Blizzard, they're coming up on the Sound Barrier. It's still 100% winnable, but they're having to worry about the aggressive kind of tank ults that are going to be hitting them in a good second.
Very much so, and we're going to need to see something big come out here for Shenandoah if they want to stay in this. The Shatter is online, and it's going to get dropped right into a May wall. Oh, you got just denied by your own team. That feels bad. A little bit of a communication error there, if you will, but hey, they've managed to force the Dragons back once again. So currently, you know, Shenandoah looking like well, I'm not gonna casters curse them, but I think the universes in which they managed to get this full hold off are looking a little bit more realistic, at least 1% more realistic than they were before.
You called that a little too early. You forgot the respawn advantage. As look at this, the Genji's popping at the blade, looking for someone to find, not going to find much. Though Shut Up Rebecca is in the back line, they're basically fighting against time. This is in Dragon's favor 100%.
Yeah, that it is, but this D.Va has done such a good job of stalling during their team fight losses where it's basically given their team an entire extra fight here. Well, maybe. They seem to be kind of just staggering in now. I thought they may have had enough time for one more coordinated push, but that does not, unfortunately, look to be the case unless Becca can make something big happen here with this Death Blossom. No.
Hey, look, it's exactly as I said. Even with this D.Va trying to contest, there's nothing you can do when the ult and spawn advantage goes on to the side of Howard, and they're able to take this series 2-1, a technical reverse sweep, if you would.
It really was. They were down to the they really. I mean, no, it really was a reverse sweep because they lost the first point of Busan, so they were 1 point away from losing, which I guess, yeah, in a best of 3, that's about as close as it can get. And Clarity picking up the once again. You know, Shenandoah, they may have lost the match, but they got the play of the game in every single map, and I think that counts for something. Maybe.
It's a little bit more base if I have to do say so myself, but it was an amazing performance. I think we just saw kind of the very much impressive adaptability being able to come in. They managed to bring themselves from Shanghai 1 to Shanghai 4, bringing in that final championship, as we all know, especially last of the Overwatch League. May you rest in peace. Either way, still, you got to be real. Give some love to Howard Community College. Having that adaptations, having that movement, they were able to kind of change things up and perform to an amazing extent.
You know, that was an incredible match to watch. Honestly, like after Eichenwald, I was not feeling too confident on this being a close game, but it really ended up being one. I cannot believe just how down to the wire that one was.